Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to take a look at yet another step back in time to the little history series I'm doing here on the Mixing Music Analog channel. The last 4 videos you saw us right from the beginning before we purchased the console and the entire journey to installing the console, all the gear, some different configurations on the way the racks are, the signal flow was, so on and so forth. If you missed parts 1 through 4, links will be in the description box below. This is part 5. So part 5, we are now in year 2022. Parts 1 through 4 were really through all of 2021. 2022, we started off with some videos, and really what you're going to see in this section, part 5, is really all about the gear and the racks, and how you're starting to see how we're going up in height, adding more and more gear. Some gear you're going to see in part 5 is no longer here, things that I've sold over the last couple of years because I didn't like it or wasn't using it or whatever. And also you're going to see a lot of gear that is still here. More pieces from AudioScape came in, and all those pieces are still here as we sit here in 2024. So that's what this video, part 5, is all about. The 2 different videos that were kind of the highlights were kind of taken out and put together to make one video to show you the configuration and the reconfiguration. And more importantly, as I was reconfiguring things, I was talking out loud on camera to why I was moving things around. So the end of part 4 was somewhere around October of 2021. This part 5 started in March of 2022. So there was about a 5 or 6 month period where we left off in 2021, that's the way the studio kind of stayed for about 4 or 5 months. And I kept working and working and mixing and working and doing all kinds of stuff here. And I was starting to learn the equipment in the racks, learned where I thought they should be configured, which pieces of gear was I putting my hands on the most, what gear did I feel like was working well, what gear didn't I think was working as I thought it would, what new pieces of gear did I want to acquire to add to the collection. And this is where you start to see all of what's behind me, the evolution of all of this. Also, you'll see in part 5, the first time that we disconnected or moved all the I/O in the computers from the gear rack to a secondary rack. It's not this server rack here. There was a smaller rack, and you'll see that in part 5. So again, taking a step back in time, checking out the evolution of Mixing Music Analog. We are now in the 2nd year of the series of 2022. Let me know what you think. Leave comments below. Again, if you guys want me to do even more of these videos of this little history lesson here, let me know. I'd be glad to put it together. I like going through some of the old footage, and I thought this whole series would be really good, not only for people who saw the original videos to go back and kind of catch up and remember what it was like before we got to this point, and not have to watch all the lengthy videos, but really for a lot of the new people that are just discovering the channel for the first time, you may not have watched all the videos from the very beginning, and I encourage you to do that. So if you watch this little history series, parts 1 through 4, it's all the highlights being pulled out of all the different videos and kind of shrunk down into 30-minute segments, so you don't have to see all of the detail. But if you want to see all of the detail, just check the playlists on this channel. Everything is organized by playlists, and you can see all the dirty details. So thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and enjoy part 5 of our little history time warp back in time to the beginnings of Mixing Music Analog. Okay guys, here is, as the old saying goes, here we go again. So today is the first video of what will probably be 4 or 5 videos. We are reconfiguring and rewiring the racks again. And you may be saying, what in the world? We just saw a video about that a couple of months ago. Yes, you did. So I'm going to explain to you what we're going to do and why, and hopefully this time we have a plan to where we're going to kind of future-proof it. So moving forward, as new pieces of gear come in, we don't have to worry about running out of space in the racks. We don't have to worry about not having enough patch bay points and all of that stuff. So that's what we're going to do. So today is, hey, today's March 1st. Today is Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. Good old Dave from New York, my buddy Dave, you've seen him before. He will be down here on Saturday to help reconfigure everything. But I want to do a lot of prepping. So I'm going to walk through this, explain to you what I'm going to do today, or what I'm going to try to do between today and tomorrow to prepare for when Dave is here, because it's an awfully big job, and because he's coming up from New York, I don't want him to have to leave here and then come back because we didn't finish. So I can get a lot of work done before he even gets here. So let me show you what we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do, and the reason why we're going to do this is we got some more gear coming in, and we're running out of rack space and or patch bay space. So our plan today is going to be this rack here, as you can see, has our 3 patch bays, 3 power conditioners, the computer and some hard drives, and then the 3 audio interfaces, the PreSonus Quantums. All of that is going to be moved to a secondary rack that's going to sit behind the console back here, which I'm going to show you guys in a few minutes where it's going to go, because those things are things that you don't touch on a daily basis. The Quantums, the interfaces always stay turned on, the computer always stays hard to be turned on, and the only thing I do on a daily basis is come in here and turn on our power conditioners. And so outside of that, this rack, nothing's really there, but we have more gear coming, as I said. So, and I'll tell you about the gear in a minute, but what we're going to do is I'm going to move these power conditioners, and actually we're going to be adding a 4th one because we don't have enough plugs and outlets in the back. We're going to move all this stuff, all of what you see here, which takes up more than half of this rack, is all going to be put, I'm in my chair here, in this rack. So this is a 12 space rack on wheels. It's a rack I had in the back of the studio I haven't been using. Actually, I think it was made by the same company that made those many years ago. I mean, it looks the same, it's the same color and whatnot, but nevertheless. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put the computer, all the power conditioners, and the interfaces in this. And that's going to sit behind the rack. So I've already got one of the power conditioners here, one of the Furmans. These are those staged delay units where it turns on in stages, right? So you have delay 1, 2, and 3. Each one of those delays is 2 power outlets or 2 pieces of gear. So you can have 6 pieces of gear hooked up to this one. So I got this one plus the 3 in the other rack. That's 4. That's going to take up 4 spaces here. We already got the shelf installed for the computer. And then this power conditioner, which is just a regular Monster, an old power conditioner I had. This does not turn on in stages like this one does. But this is going to be on all the time because the computers and the I/O are going to plug into this, so they don't need to be turned on every day. They usually they'll always stay powered. So all the computers and everything will be plugged into this. All of the hardware, including the console and the speakers, will be plugged into those. And that will fill up 10 of the, I think this is 12 spaces, 10 of the 12 spaces. That is going to free up this entire rack here for more equipment, which I'll talk about, okay? So that's all gonna be opened, okay? This rack that we're talking about here, that rack is gonna go back here. And here's where Dave, when he comes up, is gonna help, is gonna be a huge project. So basically what we're gonna do is we're going to disconnect everything again. And that rack that I just showed you is gonna sit back here. This is gonna move. This boom box here that I have, that's going to move. That lamp is going to move, and right in that corner, it'll fit. Hopefully we can see that. I'm just doing this on the iPhone. I apologize for the shaky video. That's going to sit there. Or it may actually sit here. This bundle of wires is going to kind of go away. That little stool is going to go away, and it could just sit right there facing outward. And so half of the cables that go in here, or at least part of them, are going to go to that rack, and the other half still goes to the gear. And so we're going to put a rack back here. It's small enough to fit back here so I can walk around in the morning, turn on the power conditioners, and start running. And if I have to get to the computer, I can. And you may say, well, what does that really do for you? And so again, it opens up all this rack space. So, and we're also getting some more gear, like I said, so we want to reconfigure the way some of this is laid out. Now that I've done lots of mixes on this rig, I kind of know what my hands touch all the time, what they don't touch all the time, what's the best way to lay these racks out, and also the patch bays. We've moved the patch bays. They used to be lower. We moved them up to make them easier to patch things in and out. I'm actually going to move them up a little higher. From here, we're going to probably move them up here, or maybe even up here. Not sure yet, but it's going to go higher, more eye level. So when you come over here in the chair, like I'm doing now, you can easily read the patch bay and patch things in. I don't put my hands on this very often, or on these very often, or just for, you know, a quick moment. So we have to make provisions for other equipment. So what we have coming in, we have two hardware delay units. Those are going to be 1 spaces. Those Line 6 Echo Pros, which you'll see on Saturday when Dave comes here. So we're going to have to put 2 more pieces of gear in. 2 more. We also got another 500 rack, and I want to talk about that. So one of the things that you might have seen on the channel, if you haven't seen it, you can check all the videos in the archive, is I've done some plug-in shootouts against these SSL Dynamics, these 4. These are the SSL 611 Dynamics, the compressor gates, which is what you would have found on an E series or a G series console. And as we know, the Origin doesn't have any dynamics. So I bought a few of these to test it out against plugins, because I was using plugins prior to these. And in almost every case, I like these much more. And so the goal is, and part of this project, and one of the reasons why we're doing it the way we're going to do it, is because I want to kind of future-proof it. Meaning that I want to say, well, what am I going to do over the next year, or maybe even 2, with gear? And I want to have it so there's enough open spaces and there's enough patch bay that if a new piece of gear comes in, we rack it up, it's already pre-wired to the patch bay, and we could just plug and go. We don't have to rearrange everything. So we have another 500 rack. Eventually, we're going to have 32 of these. One that's going to be permanently inserted on each one of the 32 channels on the SSL Origin, okay? So they're going to be permanently patched in just like they would if they were installed in the actual console itself. And again, I have a cover on this because we're not using it today. So, and that's going to take time for several reasons. One, they're expensive. On the used market, these are about $700 a piece. Right now, you can't find any. You can't even buy them new with all the supply chain and part shortage issues throughout the world. So I decided that eventually we're going to have 3 500 series racks. So that's 9 spaces of rack space. So, and we added 1 additional 96-point patch bay. So we will have plenty of patch bay for eventually all 3 500 series racks. And when those get filled up with all the SSL modules over time, as I buy them one at a time, I can just stuff them into the rack. They'll already be put into the patch bay. They'll be normalized, so you won't see any cables coming off the front, and they'll just be ready to go. It'll be really a plug and play. So I ordered 1 500 series rack to start. We're going to put those 4 modules in that one. That'll leave me 6 additional spaces. And I want to make provisions for the next 2 500 racks. So what does that mean? I need 9 spaces. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is 3 spaces down here, 9. So those 3 500 racks will take up this whole section here, which is one of the reasons why this is moving to that secondary rack. That will be 3 500 series racks, okay? On the bottom, underneath, we'll be able to add additional gear as necessary. We have a couple of, aside from the delay units, we also have possibly 2 more 1176s coming in from AudioScape to test out. So I'm going to need 4 spaces for that. So I'm going to leave below where the 500 series racks are going to go. Those last 4 or 5 spaces are going to be open for future expansion, demo units that come in, those kinds of things, already pre-patched into another patch bay. So we're going to have 4 Switchcraft patch bays. I bought another 96 points. I have 2 96s and 2 64 points, and we'll walk through all of that in a separate video. This will all be detailed over 5 or 6 videos. I'm just giving you kind of an overview in this video. So that will take up that'll take up that rack here. We're gonna talk about this on Saturday. Dave and I are gonna talk how I want to lay this out, but I'm thinking that we have 4 empty spaces down here. All the West Audio stuff is going to move down to the bottom because this is all digitally controlled with a plug-in, which means I don't need to put my hands on it physically, so I can move those to the bottom. This 500 rack, once I take those 4 modules out and put those into the new one, that leaves 4 open spaces. And I purchased a Neve, an AMS Neve Reverb, RMX16 I think it is, Reverb, which takes up 3 of the 4 spaces, another digital reverb unit. So that's going to be filled in right there, and that'll leave me 1 empty slot. That's going to kind of go down as well. And then the reverb will probably slide down, and then we'll probably put the 2 line 6 delay units here. So all our reverbs and delays will be in one rack, kind of stacked on top of each other, if that makes sense. So really what we're adding to this rack is really, for now, just 2 more units. So that's going to still leave us with 2 open slots here. So after we get the 2 delay units in here, and just push everything down, we're still going to have 2 more open spaces towards the top. Again, for maybe future expansion, not really sure. We'll see. So that's what's going to happen on this side. I don't know the order in which everything's going to go. Dave and I are going to talk through that and film it all for you, but that's kind of the plan. Up here in these racks, we already have 2 1176s. What we're thinking is if we get 2 more from AudioScape, instead of putting them down here, we could put them right up next to here. We can make this whole rack on both sides, make this the 1176 home. That means the AFXs and the distressors, those can move down here, possibly. Or actually what will happen is the patch bays are going away. The patch bays are gonna probably move up here. And so we're gonna do that. And then we think we're gonna leave the LA2A and the stay level, or the Opto compressor by AudioScape and the V Comp by AudioScape. Those are probably going to stay there. And if you can believe this, I have another one of these racks, a 4 space, that we think we're going to put 1 more level up. So we have even some more expansion. I have a rack already. It's just sitting in the back of the studio. It's the same as these 2. It's the same company. It's the same color. We're going to bolt all of them together from the back so they can't be moved or tipped over. And then when the one on top will be more eye level when you're standing up, which is cool for future expansion. So that is in a nutshell what we're going to do. Again, you're going to see all of the detail over the next several videos. But what this will allow me to do is, because we've already rewired this rack, this will be now I think the 3rd or 4th time. Because we keep expanding, and every time we expand, we have to jigger things all over the place, which is an entire day or day and a half's worth of work. So what we want to do this time is I want to future-proof it. Another patch bay, which half of it won't even be used right now. Another 500 rack, provisions for the other 2 500 racks. So eventually we'll have 32 of those SSL Dynamics, but it could take 2 years to get there. And then still have open space that if another piece of gear comes in, we could just pop it in the rack. It'll already be, the patch bays will already be wired. We just plug everything into the back of the units and then we could start going. And that will do it. Then we won't have to we shouldn't have to take this thing apart again. We really shouldn't have to. So that's what we're gonna do. I wanted to get another one of these another floor unit, but in this room, there just isn't enough room. We have to go up. As much as I don't want to, but we can, it's still gonna be safe. But I just don't have the floor space to put another rack in here comfortably. You wouldn't be able to walk behind the rack. Okay guys, so this is just a final update on the equipment racks. They are finally full and there is no more room for any more hardware. We have to put another level up there in order to get more gear. We are completely maxed out now with the arrival of a new piece yesterday. So I want to show you. So I'm just gonna kind of narrate this with the iPhone. Sorry for the bad video and audio quality, but it should be good enough. You guys tend to like these videos. So I'll go through all the equipment right here, and then I'll even talk to you about that rack there as well. Some of this stuff has already been shown in other videos, but I wanted to give kind of the final, here it is. Here's everything. Everything is here. If we want more gear, we got to do something else. Although there is going to be a new piece of gear going there soon, but we'll talk about that in another video. So let me get over here with the iPhone. I'm going to sit in the chair. Again, sorry for the shaky video. I just finished up another song for a client. Baby SSL's going to sleep for the day. So let's start off with the equipment rack. So if you've been following along, And watching the videos of Dave and I talking about how we got here and how we set up this whole studio, in one of those episodes, you'll hear us talk about, although you didn't see it because I was sitting in front of it, how we were able to free up more space here when we were rearranging the racks in one of our phases, our install phases. And we went to this, and this is a 12 space, I believe it's 12. Maybe it's a little bit more than that, but it's an old wooden rack that I had in the back of the studio in a storage closet I wasn't using. And we offloaded all of the I/O, computer, and power conditioner to this rack, right? So on the bottom, moving a little closer there. Oh, we're gonna get really bad light. Okay, sorry. So right there we have our I/O. Those are the PreSonus Quantums. We have two Quantum 4848s, which is giving us a total of 64 I/O, which covers all the short and long faders on the SSL origin. And then we have the Quantum 2626, which is providing the monitor section, because the Quantum 4848s don't have a monitor section, right? So that is our I/O right there, okay? Above that, we have 4 Furman power conditioners that are staged, meaning they turn on in different phases. I've talked about those many times on the channel. That's what I highly recommend if you have a lot of gear. So all the gear, all the hardware here, all this, hope I didn't make you dizzy. That all goes into the top 3 Furmans. 1, 2, 3. And then the bottom one is the SSL and the monitors. There are 2 sets of monitors, my Focals and my Avatones, and the SSL all get turned on last. So I just come in and turn on 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when we shut down, we go 4, 3, 2, 1. I should probably label that 4th one. Above that is our computer, which I'm using the 2020 Mac Mini M1, not the new ones with the Ultra chips or Max chips or whatever. That's just the regular one, the $800 one with 16 gigs of memory in it. It works flawlessly on this rig, so it's great. We have a UAD Octo satellite for UAD plugins when I use them. We got a bunch of SSD backup drives, so I have everything backed up in 3 or 4 places. Then we have a power conditioner at the top, just a straight on one that always stays powered on for the computers and for the Quantums. Only the ones in the middle turn on the gear. Okay, so that's that rack. Then we get over here and we'll start at the top left and work our way down. So we have our boom box. We have the AudioScape 76A Blue Stripe, fantastic compressor. Nice and open on the top. I really like this. You want something, got something dark, you want to brighten it up, that's one to use. Underneath that, we have the AudioScape 76F version of the 1176. Not as bright as that, but not as warm as the Blackface, which I'll get to in a minute. Then if we come over here to the other top, we have the Blackline Audio Bluey, which sounds very similar to the 76A, but it's more aggressive. It's more raunchy sounding, which is nice. So it's like a 76A with some grit. And then we have the 76D by AudioScape. Again, sounds warmer than the other 2. So the way their AudioScape 1176s kind of go, that's the warmest of the 3. Kind of in the middle, the F, open and bright. Open and bright raunchy. So that's the 4 1176s that we have. 3 by AudioScape, 1 by Black Lion Audio. Then if we come down here to this rack, we have the Apex 204s. They're 2 channels, so you get 1, 2, 3, 4. And those are being used for toms, primarily. Oh, I didn't turn this one on? Oh, I must have not turned that one. What did I do? Oh, you know what I did? I probably forgot to turn on that last power strip. So anyway, so we have Apex 204s, 4 channels. I usually just use those for toms. They sound great. Under that, we have a pair of distressors. I use those for a variety of things. Everything from guitars, vocals, pianos, saxophones, strings, horns. They sound really great. And then under that, we have the Fusion on the master bus, which is a brilliant box. The first piece I would tell anyone to purchase. If you're first getting into hybrid and you're all in the box and you want your first piece of analog gear, I say always start on the master bus. That's where you're going to get the most bang for buck. And that is the most bang for buck you could possibly get, the Fusion. Did a full review on it, check the channel. I'm sure you've seen that. If not, go watch it. Me and Dave did it. It was a lot of fun. Underneath that, we have the ART Trans Y, which is something I purchased from my good buddy Dave, as you've seen on the channel. He wasn't using it. It's a stereo bus compressor, and it's usually reserved for background vocals for the most part. Sounds pretty good. It's, you know, cheap, kind of inexpensive, but it sounds great for background vocals. Underneath that, we have the API 5500 stereo EQ, which right now, since I bought this about a month ago, I'm using it on an album project, and I'm just using it on the drum bus for now, and it's freaking wonderful. Awesome. You want drums with lots of punch, even if you dial in the EQ on your console. I put a little bit of 50, actually quite a bit, 6 dB of 50, take out a couple of dB of 500, add a couple of dB at 5K, and it sounds great. That's an amazing EQ. Super punchy, super aggressive, everything's nice and tight and focused. Once I get through this album project, I'd love to try this on the master bus as well, just for giggles. This is a new piece I want to show you. This just came in the other day. This is the audio-scape EQPA, the Pultec, but it is actually part of their new, you can see this, the Trainwreck series, where they're now, audio-scape will hand relic some of their gear if you want something that looks old and vintage. That's really popular on the in the guitar market, but I've never seen an audio company, a pro audio company, do that. They do a wonderful job too, because you know they don't overstate it. It looks completely natural. Really, really cool. I mean, it is really cool. It's not overly done and look like somebody actually reliced it. It looks like it would have naturally done this. So my guess is they got some photos, or they got an old real Pultec, and they kind of copied some of the relicking, but they did a really nice job. There'll be a review coming on this soon, and we'll compare it to plugins, but it just sounds absolutely unbelievable. So that's the latest piece I got. And now underneath that, we have our 2 delay units. These are Line 6 Echo Pros. They don't make these anymore, but you can get them for between $400 or $500. I got them in almost pristine condition. So I'm using one for a quarter note, one for an eighth note delay. They were primarily put out for guitar players, and it does a lot of stuff, but I just use it in its most basic form. And for a delay unit, it sounds really great. For the price, you can't beat it. We're getting towards the bottom here, and then under that we have the AudioScape Spring Reverb unit, analog spring reverb. Really cool. We did a full review on this. The more I use this, the more I like it. It's simple, it sounds really wonderful, and I put this, every single track on my mix runs through that in very like light, small doses. Just a nice little wash. You can barely hear it, but what a difference it makes. That's a beautiful box, by the way. You want something a little different, you want a hardware reverb, I highly recommend this piece. Check out AudioScape's website. I mean, compared to the price of something like a Bricasti or a high-end Lexicon, I mean, price-wise, they're right in the ballpark. They're actually a little bit cheaper than those, I think, and they sound great. And then we have over here the West Audio NG bus compressor, which I'm primarily just using for drums. It could be patched anywhere, but it sounds amazing as a drum bus. You can, and the reason why it's at the bottom of the rack is because it's all digitally controlled with a plug-in, so you don't need to get on the floor and adjust it. I don't ever touch it. I do it all with a plug-in. But that's an amazing unit too. Amazing, great for stereo bus compressor. Again, hybrid, if you want a really great compressor for your master bus, that's one that heavily considered. They have a transformer circuit and everything. I have a full review on it on the channel. Okay, let's move over to this rack. So we ended up over here. So beneath our 1176s here, this is our four patch bays, which look like a mess because I'm in the middle of a session. I got a bunch of things patched. These are all Switchcraft patch bays. We have a 96 point, 2 64 points, and another 96 point. Don't ask why we did 64s instead of 96s, because at the time they were out of stock and you couldn't get them. So we're using them, and we have plenty of patch bay left over. I'm gonna do a full video on how to use a patch bay one of these days. A couple of you asked, how do I use it? And I'll show you that. I did a video where I showed you the labeling program, how we label it. So you can see it's all labeled. Cool. So that's our patch bays, and it's nice because I'm sitting in a chair right now, and this is pretty much at eye level. So you can just wheel over and patch things in and out. You don't have to, get that on the floor. Underneath that, we finally have filled up, sorry about the patch cables in the way. We finally filled up the 500 series of all the SSL dynamic modules. So this is a West Audio Super Carrier 2 500 rack that has 11 slots, not 10. And they're filled up with 10 SSL 611 dynamics, which are patched to the patch bay and they're hard patched, they're normalized, so there's no cables going from the patch bay to it. And they're all inserted permanently on the SSL. So that's channel 1 on the board, channel 2 on the board, channel 3 on the board, channel 4, you get it all the way through. Just like if you had a dynamics in the actual console, we have them normalized so they come either right before or right after the EQ on the board, depending on how you want to use it. And now you can have dynamics on the first 11 channels and a gate, which is great. Underneath that, we have another 500 rack. This is the Titan by West Audio. This is only a 10 slot. In the first bank, we have the West Audio Dione VCA bus compressor, like SSL kind of a thing. Again, all digitally controlled with a plug-in. Next to that, we have the West Audio RIA, which is a very new compressor, again, controlled with a plug-in. Next to this, we have a pair of VA3As, which are the AudioScape LA3A copies with transformers and whatnot. Sound fantastic. I use these on guitars all the time. Next to that, I have an SPL de-esser, which I use for lead vocals, which is great. And then the last piece in here is the AMS reverb. This is the Neve reverb. I use this primarily for drums, and it sounds wonderful. Got a couple of presets that I made for myself, and it sounds great. Underneath that, we have the AudioScape V-Comp Plus, which is their version of a stay level. Nice, rich, thick, creamy, awesome on vocals, great on bass guitar. Also pretty good on acoustics. And then last, we have the good old faithful Opto compressor by AudioScape, the LA2A. Another awesome compressor I used on this whole album I'm doing. Bass runs through it on every single track, and it sounds great. So we have a lot of AudioScape pieces, so I want to make sure I'm very thankful, and I am, to AudioScape and Chris Yetter from AudioScape and all the good folks over there. We've exchanged a lot of these pieces for reviews. A lot of these are already on the channel. Some of them are coming soon, like the 1176 shootout and the EQP shootout. And then some of the pieces like the LA3s, I paid for those. But Chris has been very, very generous. Chris, I got to say thank you so much. I mean, this guy makes wonderful gear. And if you don't believe me, go look around on some of the other, channels like Warren Hewitt, Produce Like a Pro. I mean, just go search. You'll see a lot of pro level engineers use AudioScape stuff, because for the buck, you can't beat it. It sounds wonderful stuff. And Chris has been a real big supporter of this whole channel and my new studio ever since it opened. And I really do appreciate it. I highly recommend you give him a look. Again, the links will be in the description box for audioscapeengineering.com out in Florida. So that's the racks. There they are. They're full. You'll see there's no more space. Everything's been moved. We can't fit anything else in here. That's it. We have a couple of one spaces available, but I leave that for the tube. The Pultec's got tubes in it, so I want it to cool, so we don't want to put anything there. Same thing down here. We got tubes. We don't want to put anything there, so we got some cooling, one space, rack, one space there, cooling. So there's really nowhere to put another one. I guess there is down here, another one space. Because the NG bus doesn't have, even though it vents on the top, you probably should cool it. The reverb unit has no vents on the top, but really, we're done. I mean, the only way we could put more gear is to go up a level. And like I said, I have another one of these racks. I have another one, 4 space on each side, 8 space that could go up. We could go up another level if we wanted to. But there really isn't a need. I mean, outside of maybe one more Pultec, one more EQP to have a stereo pair, other than that, there's nothing else I really need. I mean, we got everything, and I don't use everything on every mix, but we have a lot of ice cream flavors as far as compression goes. The API EQ was a great addition. The EQP, the EQ PA was a great addition, and so there's really not a need to have another rack full of gear. There really isn't. So the only way I think I would get something new is if something went away if we didn't use something and I was going to get rid of something and replace it with something else, but to just buy more stuff. Doesn't really need it. Like I said, I'm doing full-on mixes and not even using all the gear on every mix. There's no reason to, depends on the track, but we got plenty of stuff here. So anyhow, that is kind of the completed racks for 2022. And then again, we have the equipment racks over there. Everything's worked out really good. Again, all of this, putting all of this together, I could never have done without help from my good friend and assistant and part of this channel, really, Dave. Dave knows who he is, David SJ. He's really been a lot of help. I mean, tremendous help. And it's been fun working together as a partnership on this, as far as, you know, just two friends getting together and geeking out. And he's had a lot of fun here. And he's looking forward to getting in here and using this stuff. I know he is. So you'll see him on the channel again soon. So that's it for now. So please like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions about the gear. And until the next video, I've been Dave with Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com. Thank you so very much for watching. Take care, everybody.